So let's just see if it's recording. It's recording. So hello, welcome. I am Sheila, the Grateful Goddess, and I'm super excited today to have with me Eileen Grubba. Eileen is an award-winning actress, a lifetime member of the Actors Studio, and has spent over 26 years on the stage. She has been in so many films. In fact, when I Googled it, it was something like 186, whether TV and that it's like, I'm not going to go through her whole thing. I'll post it in the post, but just to give you a glimpse of what she has been involved in: The Watchmen, SWAT, All Rise, New Amsterdam, The Politician, Stumptown. She's been in Game of Silence, Son of Anarchy, Criminal Minds, Bones, oh, so many. CSI Miami, The Mentalist, Nip and Tuck, Closer, Monk. You can see it goes on and on and on. She's very, very impressive. She's been nominated 3 times for Best Actress Awards for indie films, with multiple wins for the Best Ensemble Cast in the Female Lead. She's also won multiple awards for disability inclusive short films. You see, Eileen was paralyzed from the waist down as a child after a vaccine attacked her spinal cord, leaving her C1 and C4 injury. And later she even beat cancer, likely caused by the radiation exposure during her medical battles. And doctors said that she would never walk again. Yet they didn't know Eileen. She regained most of her mobility through relentless persistence and many, many surgeries. So Eileen is an accomplished actress, writer, public speaker, and producer. She's years of experience in casting, has directed theater and films, and has been hired to write screenplays due to her ease in creating strong female characters. She's an advocate for hiring people with disabilities in film, television, advertising. She's even a brand ambassador for the Global Disability Inclusion. She has been a fighter all her life. Eileen refuses to give up her quest to create full opportunity for people with disabilities, and believes inclusion in entertainment will create a world of greater acceptance for everyone. I am so honored to welcome Eileen Grubba to this interview. And
thank you.
With that, I would like to say that I'm honored, and yet I don't feel that I'm qualified for this interview. I'm not someone who's well informed on Hollywood scene or in politics regarding inclusion or even social justice for that matter. So my only qualification is my curiosity and deep, deep desire to learn more on social justice so that I can know more and then be better, as Maya Angelou. When you know better, you are better. So with that in mind, I might likely make some mistakes and stumble around this topic.
No worries.
Okay. And I trust that you're somebody who could just kindly call me out if I say things that are unintentionally offensive. You know, I can't think of a better term for this, or you know, like all that we've been in, this tumultuous time with Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter and the whole level of awareness for the need for diversity and justice and inclusion. This year 2020 has just blown up what we've become accustomed to. It's shed a light on dark spaces that we weren't seeing before, which I think is a great opportunity to find new hope that we truly can create a more cohesive world.
It all starts with those conversations. I think it's important to make those conversations easy. So I applaud you for your courage to step into uncharted territory and just take a stab at it, because we should make it easy for people to communicate with all communities and about all differences, because that's the only way we get to peace.
Right.
It's the only way we get to mutual understanding.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Because, you know, somebody was saying to me that, well, we just need to walk on eggshells right now. And I'm like, I don't want to live in a world where we walk on eggshells. No.
We should never have to.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, when I ended up seeing 2 quotes of yours that I want to address because they were so beautiful. The first one was, "We're turning the tides in this industry. I believe we all have to keep striving to break the rules of entertainment to better reflect humanity."
Yeah.
And then the second one was, if you want me to accept you as you are, then you have to accept me as I am, exactly as I am. That sounds fair, doesn't it? And so with that, I would like to start right there with you sharing with us how you have not always been accepted exactly as you are and how it's impacted you.
Well, yeah. To this day, I can still tell you there are plenty of times when I'm not accepted for who I am. And that goes across the board. It goes out into society. It happens in our families. It happens in our workplaces. I'm sure every human being has a time in their life when they feel that they were not accepted for who they are, for their beliefs, for whatever they are, for whatever difference they are in the moment, whether you were the first female player on a softball team or you were the the first Black person in a classroom, or there are so many examples of people being treated as if they didn't count because they didn't fit in. And I'd like to challenge the world about the fact that none of us actually fit in. We're all different. And thank God. Otherwise, it would be such a boring world. And, I don't understand the mentality of you need to be just like me or I'm not going to accept you. And to me, that doesn't matter what position we're coming from. I don't care what political party somebody's in. I don't care what color they are. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care what size they are. I just don't care. Gender, all of it. Disability. What I actually care about is who you are as a human being. And are you adding good and positive things to the world, or are you harming the world? And, I think if we just have to divide people and judge people, then why don't we divide them right there? Are you adding value and good to the world, or are you harming people? Like, if we have to judge, let's judge right there, and otherwise throw it all out the window and let's try to understand each other. Because I've spent most of my life being treated as if I didn't count, I didn't matter, I didn't belong, ever since nearly dying from a childhood vaccine that had really nothing to do with who I am, and so it just was something I had to deal with and go through. And, throughout life, all people will eventually learn these lessons. They will learn what it feels like to be the one who's hurting. So, we might as well just try really hard to be open and understand what people are going through rather than make things harder on them when it might be it's as hard as it can possibly be handled right now. We don't know when we're adding to someone's grief in such a way that might be the end of them, so why should we ever add grief? Like, who are we to decide who gets to fit in or doesn't? We just don't know.
Besides that, how bland would the world be if we were all the same? Like,
Exactly.
Such an unrealistic.
And you wouldn't want them to be. How would it feel if you went in a room and every single girl looked exactly like you, same hair, same earrings, same look, same height, same size, and everyone was exactly like you? Then how are you special? How are you gonna ever matter if everyone's exactly the same? It's just such a completely thoughtless societal setup that I just don't know where it started. I know people are territorial, and I know people are like, this is my family or my tribe or my, but who's to say that different people can't come into that tribe or that world or that work or that school, or, it just doesn't make any sense to me, and it never did. And I've never understood why people would add cruelty to someone's life when they're already fighting for their life. Or when you're suffering an incredible loss, why wouldn't you be open to people who've had those losses and might actually have some wisdom for you? Or if you're facing your life, why not be open to the people who've done that before and might have something that might save your life or help you through it or help you wrap your head around it? And the only way that we actually gracefully get through this life is by being open to all the people that come into our world, because they might be the answers we're looking for. Like we all do complete each other's puzzles in one way or another. So we just have to stop rejecting all the pieces we think aren't good enough for us, because they might just be your silver lining or your answer or your game changer, you know?
Yeah. So
How
I'd
I
like to
feel
go
about
all
it.
the way back to your childhood, because you mentioned this cruelty of other kids and all of that kind of stuff, but it's even crueler when it comes from your own family that, you know, you're meant to belong in. And if you don't feel that sense of belonging in your own family, which I think a lot of people don't feel they belong in their own family.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people feel that way. And if you've been the kid that's been the odd one out, you know, if you're the kid that disrupted a childhood, and this is a typical phenomenon among people with disabilities, where the other siblings are traumatized and jealous of the attention that you're getting from the parents, not realizing that the illness itself is traumatizing and you really don't want this attention. And it's just a typical phenomenon. And so I think it's valuable to discuss, even though families might not like it, because there's so many kids growing up in those worlds where not only are they facing their disability, but now resentment and stuff from their siblings. And, you know, parents are doing the best they can with these challenges. And, you know, there's also another thing that's, you know, when I was growing up in this world, things are different today than they were then. And people are a lot more conscious and aware because of all the battles we've had and all the conversations we've had and sharing our stories, and more people having the courage to share. But even, you know, in earlier years, families were ashamed to have someone with a disability. In other countries, there are still countries where, you know, it's considered a shame to have a child with a disability, and those kids still aren't even allowed to go to school because they are a disgrace to their families. And it's just like, can you imagine just growing up being a disgrace to your family? No child should ever have to feel that. And a lot of kids feel that. And it's just, what a setup for failure in life to grow up feeling like you're a disgrace to people, or they're ashamed of you, or they don't like you because you've had these challenges, or, you know, or because your spirit has become what it is to survive. You know, it's a very challenging thing to go through. And it's very hard for me to discuss, even because, you know, my parents have been dead a long time, but I also have 7 siblings, and I'm sure they don't like to hear my story all the time. You know, I'm sure they don't like to hear it. And, you know, God bless them. Some of them have really risen to be great allies and supporters of the work I do, but it's still hard for any sibling to watch another sibling get all of that attention. But I challenge every sibling dealing with it to think about what that child is going through. Right. Just really think about what they're going through, the terror of it, the pain, the physical pain and suffering of it, before you resent them for the attention that they get.
So is there anything, like, hindsight is always 20/20, and being able to look back on that now, is there advice that you have for families that are going through that? Because you very clearly understand why your siblings, they felt like that you were getting all the attention or the finances or whatever the case might be, and that wasn't, it's not like that was what you had chosen. So
no.
Was it the fact that the parents needed to step in and have conversations, or do you think that it's everyone in this situation needs counseling, or what's the answer for things like this?
I wish I knew what the answer was. My parents were pretty amazing. They died young. They both died pretty young. So, you know, my mother died by the time she was my age, and she had 8 kids she left in the world. So, you know, my mom and dad were hit with a really difficult situation, and it did financially knock our family back quite a bit, and it did cause all kinds of distress among the whole family. And but my mother was really wise, and my father and mother both made sure I was treated fairly, and they were fair, and they made my siblings look after me and stand up for me and include me. And so they were pretty amazing. How you deal with it, you know, I think they did the best that they could do. And I'm not sure how I feel. I say some things that might piss some people off, but, you know, I'm not sure how I feel about the way that a lot of counselors and therapists deal with it today, because I remember working on a medical show years ago where I had to interview a lot of therapists about how to deal with kids going through these kind of challenges. And I can't tell you how many of them that I went, wrong answer. Nope, sorry. I was one of those kids. That's not going to help. And as a matter of fact, it's going to make things worse. And I think the worst thing you can do probably is treat these kids like they're not equal, fair, normal. Treat them like everybody else. One of the things that my parents did that probably is the reason I was able to keep going and accomplish all I have in the world is because they never treated me like I was less or that I had to be babied or coddled. Protected, yes. They were smart, they were practical, but never did they make sure everything was done for me or let me get away with not getting up and trying. And so I think I see a lot of the younger generations coming in feeling like everything should be done for them. And I feel like that might be an enormous disservice to them.
Right.
Because everyone is responsible for their own lot in life. And we do need to make our world and our society much more accessible and inclusive of all people, all differences. Yes, we need to do that. But I don't think it's a good idea to weaken a person, any person, by making it too easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And in every walk of life, I see that, even just families that are really, really, really lucky, where everything's just been sort of handed down or passed down from generation to generation, where they don't have to really struggle for anything. I see that as being a huge disservice. I think any kid that hasn't had to struggle a bit or work hard or go after their dreams and fight for it, not have it handed, I think they're all at a they're disserved is the words I'm looking for, where, you know what, if you make it too easy on any kid, they will fail. They'll fail. And they won't have any respect for themselves. My parents treated me equally, so I had to work as hard as everybody else. I had to go in different directions because my disability focused me towards the things I could do. And I think it's important to treat all kids equally, no matter what their difference is, no matter what their blessings are. I've seen pretty people who physically and everything look perfect live at the greatest disadvantage in all of life because they become targets to people. Yeah. They become targets. Yeah. And they also aren't strong enough to handle those situations, or things have been handed to them so often and so easily that they've never gained the grit needed to handle those things well. And so, you know, I hope that answers your question. I just feel like the best thing to do is treat people equally. I think my parents did that. Mm-hmm. I think that we would have been a lot better off if our parents would have lived a lot longer. That's another challenge you can't really do anything about. But you do the best you can. And, you know, from everything I've learned in my life, I've tried to share my challenges in a way that helps other people get through them. Because I think that's where we're hurting the most in the world, is that the more our world gets social media acclimated and people are more connected, the more disconnected they are, and the more alone people feel in their challenges. So I try to be one of those people who is accessible to people when they're in trouble and they reach out and they need some wisdom or some advice, or to even say how'd you get through it. Mm-hmm. I was just sharing with another friend of mine who's also a spinal cord injury walker who had one hell of a hard life that got her there. And I just was saying, you know, sometimes you get really sick of your own story. You're sick of sharing it. But then you realize, you know, people need to hear it because it helps people get perspective, and it helps them sometimes get tools they need to get through things. Yeah. And a lot of times I hear a lot from people saying, thanks for sharing your story because it helped me figure out this, or it helped me learn how to do that, or it helped my children, or it helped my family. And so that's why we keep sharing them.
Yeah, I think that is beautiful, and I think you have been such an inspiration, and that's why people want to hear your story. And one of the things that I really loved about your early years was you know, you talked about your parents treated you equal, but it's more equity rather than equal, because they had to make accommodations for you. So they you know, sort of pointed you in a different direction. That didn't mean you didn't need to do anything. It meant you needed to focus on something. And so I loved, since I am actually somebody who teaches vision board workshops, and I have for years at Canyon Ranch. And so what I loved was that you made your dreams come true on paper first. So if you can go back and tell us about that time in your life, and how, as a child, how did you start to create your dreams on paper?
So when I was stuck in a room in a wheelchair and couldn't run around like everyone else, and I would look out the window and the kids would be out playing in the snow, and I really wanted to be there and I couldn't, you know, and that made me sad. And because our family was so financially hit by it, my mom had to get really creative. Sometimes less makes you more creative.
Yeah.
So she went to the local newspaper, and in the back, in their trash, they would throw out the reels from the newspaper print, and it still had a ton of paper on it. Yeah, it had a ton of paper on it. And she would get those and bring them home to me and give me boxes of crayons, which I would never throw away a crayon, even when it got to the nubs. My box just got bigger and bigger, and I didn't care if the crayons were broken or what kind of, you know, because I used every bit of it. And I just would roll that out, and I would crawl across that floor and draw and draw and draw, and, you know, all the things I wanted, the way I wanted the world to be, you know, and all the smiling faces and the sunshines and the houses and the people, and, you know, that's what I did. And next I got a glue sewing machine, I think for Christmas or something, and then, you know, they give you these little patches of fabric, and I was like, you know, that's not enough stuff to make stuff with. So I myself wrote a letter to the company saying, you didn't give me enough fabric to make anything. and they shipped me a whole big old box of fabric. and my mom was like, where did this come from? And I was like, well, I wrote them. There was an address on the box.
I love that story. I absolutely love that story.
And this day, when I think back on it, I'm like, some lady was probably opening all the mail going, oh, this kid, you know. So they sent me a big old box of fabric, and I started making Barbie doll clothes and all the things, you know, I wanted to make. And, you know, it started getting my creative juices flowing as an artist, you know, as a child. So.
And then you actually wanted to be a fashion designer, right?
That was my dream. I was going to be a fashion designer. Started with making all those Barbie doll clothes.
Yeah. So how did your physical disability block you from that dream?
Well, it was just perception again, because, you know, I got an art scholarship, a partial, and then I went to University of Florida, and I was an art major, and a couple of years into that, and I got my AA degree and associated the arts and associated the sciences, and then I was like bored. You know, and I still wanted to go be a fashion designer. So I applied to FIT in New York City. And this was probably one of all of two times in my life that my mother stepped in, and she came to me with tears in her eyes saying, you cannot go to New York City and live alone and commute in New York City alone, trying to go to school in the middle of that city. It's too dangerous. something terrible happened. I was like, oh, Mom, I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. And she said something that just stuck, and it was painful to hear, but it was a mother speaking. And she said, don't you understand? You look like a victim. And if somebody's going to attack somebody, they're going to pick you. And I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And she's like, because they're going to see the girl limping around at night in New York City, and you're going to be the one they pick. Don't you understand that? And I was like, no, I don't understand that, you know. And, you know, it hurt. But she'd also had a friend whose child went off to New York City and was murdered years earlier. And so my mom was terrified. Yeah. And she shared that with me, and it wasn't normally her way. And, you know, I really was very conscious of how my parents felt about things. I really respected them, and, you know, I thought about it, and I thought, okay, so I'm not going to go to New York City. Now what am I going to do? You know? So
yeah,
it shifted gears for me, and then I ended up taking a deep breath. Another, you know, little door opened that welcomed me somewhere else, and I moved to Atlanta. And when I was in Atlanta, I started thinking I'll do interior design because that was showing up. But then people started approaching me. I didn't go after this. I remember being approached in the gas station once asking if I would model, and another time someone reaching out saying, would you, you know, consider modeling wedding gowns? I was like, sure, why not? And in those little experiences, I decided I don't know anything about this business. I've got to learn something about this business so that I'm not a victim, so that I'm not stupid going into these things. And I started taking classes at Alliance Theater in Atlanta, and another private teacher class, and I forgot what it was called, but I started taking acting classes and commercial acting classes, and, you know, just learning the industry, and went to work for a casting director as well, a volunteer assistant to a casting director for a few years. And I just learned a lot about the business. And in the meantime, I was in my church choir, and I was doing community theater musicals, and it just started to grow from there.
Yeah. Which made me think, since fashion design was your dream and what you loved, and yet acting was just something you kind of fell into, my question is, did you end up falling in love with acting, or do you see acting as a means to an end to have a voice and a platform to get your message across?
I'm going to say all of the above. When I really started training, I fell in love with it. I just loved doing it. And then I realized a couple of years into it, I outgrew Atlanta at the time, and I moved to New York City after all. But now I was married, so I wasn't alone. And good thing, because I had a rebuilt leg and all that stuff, so it was a little challenging city, but I wasn't alone. And I started really training there with great artists and at HB Studios, and I had some wonderful teachers, and I really started learning a lot about the fact that life experience is everything as an actor. Or things that in the past were seen as like a fault or a flaw in me suddenly became my tools for my toolbox in this craft, and I started to realize how my life experience could help people understand other people.
Yes.
I realized that putting my own heart and soul into the work through any character would help audiences empathize with the character. So I started to realize that the depth that I have because of my life experience, and because it's so easy for me to understand what other people are going through, because I've been through so much, it's easier for me to put myself in someone's shoes and feel their pain. And if I can put myself in someone's shoes and feel their pain, I can put myself into any character's shoes and try to understand where they're coming from and what they're fighting for. And when I do that, people feel it.
Yeah.
So I realized this is where all this life experience makes sense. And a few years into New York, I did have to leave because it was too hard to get around that city on rebuilt ankles and things, and went to California. And then I got into the actor's studio where I have trained with the greatest mentors I've ever had, and they taught me so much about the value of all this life experience and how to use it in my work and how to bring it to the stage and the screen. And it all just made so much sense. And it was quite a battle to get to work as an actor who had a visible physical flaw, who walked with a limp, and to be a female that wasn't perfect, because our industry for many years perpetuated this illusion of perfection. Yes. That, in my opinion, has been a burden on all women.
Yes.
All women everywhere, because women everywhere are watching movies and TV feeling like they have to measure up to this perfection that doesn't really exist. Doesn't exist.
Yeah. I think it's a disservice to men too, because then they expect perfection and they don't get it. And then
they don't get it. Exactly. And then they don't really truly appreciate the beautiful female that might be right by their side, or the beautiful mother, or the beautiful sister, or the beautiful woman, because they think they're not perfect like they're supposed to be because it's said so on TV and film. I think it's just been a disservice to all humans. And I feel like as we're watching the industry start to open up now, we're starting to get that. We're starting to get that so much depth comes with all those challenges and flaws and differences, so much heart and soul. And I think it's what everybody's craving right now. Yeah. Depth and humanity and heart and soul and empathy and compassion. And I've never, ever, ever been able to look at a hurting human and not feel their pain. Yeah. I don't care what their challenge is. I don't care what their difference is. I feel like I can feel their soul. I can feel their pain. I can see it from across a room through a big smile. I feel it. And there's a reason that I'm so aware of that. And so in that respect, I have a gift. Right. But if I can feel someone's pain, then maybe I can reach out my hand to them. And maybe I can say, maybe something I've been through can help you through this journey or to your next step. And I felt like, through the years, I've had a lot of people ask me to, like, can you, mentor people? And I have. And can you coach cancer patients through these things? And I started to realize many years ago there's only 24 hours in a day. And so, therefore, perhaps my industry is the best possible platform I could have, because then instead of just reaching one person in a day, I can reach hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands. When my story goes out there, maybe I get to help people on a much bigger level and have a broader reach in terms of helping people get through challenges.
Right. So what comes to mind as my next question is, and you can answer this however you choose to interpret it, but what role have you been most proud of, and why?
Role in life or on TV and film?
That's why I said it could be however you see it, because you've had so many roles in terms of actress and producer, and like you've got a lot of roles in activism and all of that, but you've also had a lot of roles on the screen. And maybe you want to give more than one answer, but it's just like, what are the things that you are most proud of yourself?
Okay, so I'll start with the screen and then I'll go to life. the whole life picture. On screen, there've been a couple of projects I just did in the last couple of years where I literally was putting into the project what I was trying to process in life. And without going into too much painful detail, I ended up with 2 films. One of them's out in the world winning awards everywhere. And the other one is in post-production, not seen yet by the world. Both of them are dealing with the loss of a child. So, I've found that when I'm suffering with something very painful, it's helpful to my soul to put it into the work, because I realize a lot of people are dealing with those same losses. So, the one, you know, and no film that we make ourselves or that we write ourselves ever is exactly, it never comes out exactly the way we want it to, but it all has its value and purpose, and everything gets changed, and film is not a perfect medium. It's a big collaboration, and not everyone gets it and all that stuff. So, but we do the work, we do the best we can, and we put it out into the world. And one of them, called Take My Hand, was a couple of years ago, not even, it was last year that it went out into the world. And it was all about helping a mother who's going down after losing a child. And my whole point in the writing of it was to show people how you help someone through a challenge like that. Because I realized through a lot of my challenges that people are so afraid to reach out to you, and so afraid to say the wrong words, and so afraid that they don't know how to help, that they just don't. They just disconnect. And that leaves a person really alone in the world. And so I felt like I'm going to write this just to show people how you reach out, even when someone's angry and someone's in pain, how you put your hand out. And the film is even called Take My Hand.
Oh.
And it's a short film, and it's gone out to festivals everywhere, and it often leaves entire audiences with tears on their face, and a lot of people have reached out and said thank you for sharing that and for putting it out there. And you know, and it's not as perfect as I wanted it to be, and it's not everything I wanted it to be, but it doesn't matter because it's making an impact, because the heart was there, the meaning was there, the intention was there. And then we just made another one. What? Sorry.
Well, so many questions come to mind on this. And one is there a way for us to see it, or do we need to go to a film festival to see it?
It was just in the film festivals, and then for a brief period of time we did have it online. We do have a Facebook page for it called Take My Hand. But now we've gotten a distributor, which is quite incredible for a short film. So it will go out into the world. I just don't know exactly yet the platform, but I'm sure I'll find out soon enough. Okay. And then the other one is we're still wrapping up.
Before you go on to that one, I have one more question about this, because you talked about how it's not perfect. It's not exactly what you want. And I know that you had a hand in how it was done, so it's not quite the same, but I'm curious if you've ever had a director asking you to play a role that is actually offensive to and creating more of a stereotype that you would like to overcome. And
oh, yes.
Yeah. So have you been able to change the script, or do they say, no, this is the way it is, and you are actually creating more of the same stereotype you'd like to overcome?
No, I won't do that. Even in terms of women's stereotypes, I have stood up to directors kindly, but no, that's not happening with my face in this film, because of the fact that, you know, anyone who knows me knows I stand very strong with my beliefs and my integrity, and I don't harm people, and I don't mess up their productions, and I'm not difficult, but I do stand for what I believe in. And so, yes, I have had, especially in terms of women, I have had people want me to do things that I feel is unacceptable and further weakens women, and I won't do it.
Thank you.
I just won't do it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I will not. And especially when I'm on a set.
For that.
And so I won't. And I've had a lot of people say things to me about, you know, I have a big thing about women should be allowed to age gracefully as well, naturally. And I don't buy into harming my brain, my skin, my face with things that are toxic, because people have this illusion that women are supposed to be flawless and perfect. Well, sorry, not doing it. I'm not putting neurotoxin near my brain, not after everything I've been through. Not happening. Yeah. I don't care how anybody feels about that, but it's not happening in my world. I will do women a favor and let them see what it looks like to age naturally on screen. Here it is. This is what it looks like. So leave it alone. And I'm not going to harm my body or my soul by, you know, I remember a year when I literally was in tears because I couldn't make my health insurance, which is critical to my survival. And I'm being handed a SAG movie, booked and everything, where, then they give me the full script and they forgot to say all the crazy, wild sex scenes and just unnecessary, gratuitous, for what reason. And I just was like, I'm not doing it. I'll go without my health insurance. I'll starve if I have to, but this is a disservice to all women. I'm sorry, but I'm not doing it. And in my younger years, first couple of the first 3 big offers I got were for Playboy stuff. And I literally was like, I'm not doing it. I've seen too many women hurt by it. I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm just not. I don't need men to look at me and be like, ooh, she's so hot. I don't need that. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't need to show them my goods. I don't, and I'd rather make them look at a woman and have some respect.
Thank you.
And because I feel like that's a service to all women. Yes. And I will do that for all women, even the ones who don't respect it or appreciate it, who think it's more important to be sexy. I don't.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't care. And in terms of stereotypical disability stuff, anything that I think weakens our cause, I'm going to speak up. And if something feels inauthentic, I'm going to speak up. It's just part of life and integrity. I think it's like, do the right thing, but my values are all about what strengthens and serves people and not what weakens them. Now, in life, I have disempowered people by taking away their target, because I don't believe in being someone's target, and if someone's going to be abusive or cruel, I've found that the most powerful move I can make is remove myself. And I will. I'll warn people that this is coming, but then if they can't stop treating me like I'm less or treating me like I'm not valued, I will remove myself. And that really pisses people off, and I get that it disempowers them when you take their toys away, but I'm never going to be someone's
Are you
victim.
speaking about friendships that you stop, or are you talking about roles that you're playing and it's like, I'm out?
I've declined roles, but I'm now talking about in life, where if I'm just saying in terms of disempowering people, it's like I always believe in empowering people unless they are hurting you or being abusive to you or someone you love. Then I'm all about disempowering them by not humiliating them or anything like that, but removing myself from the equation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I've just learned that, if you're a person who tries to add value wherever you go and tries to raise the bar and tries to be empathetic and compassionate wherever you are, if you come across people who are going to use and or abuse that or take it for granted or take advantage of you or try to harm you because they feel they can get away with it or because they think you're less than them because you have a disability. I encounter a lot of that in life where people just feel like they're better than me or smarter or more important or more valuable or more worthy of getting the work because I have something wrong with me. Those people, I try to communicate. I try to share my points of view, but if they are invested in belittling or lessening, then I just remove myself. It's the most powerful thing we can do, I think. And I have this page called Everyday Warriors on Facebook where, every day we put out a little bit of something that encourage you to be your best self. And sometimes and often those conversations involve removing yourself from situations that are not empowering you. Mm-hmm. And I think I've gotten to a place in my industry, I said, no, enough time. I walked away from more work than I got in my younger years because it was often stuff that I thought was disempowering to me, to women, something I'd be ashamed of later. Not doing it. Just not doing it. I've turned down really big shows, really big ones, because they wanted me, doing something that I felt was not valuable for any female to be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not doing it.
Did you encounter a lot of the sexual harassment that is known in the industry? Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes. But because of my childhood and my life, I'm very strong about standing up for myself rapidly. I'm not a person who takes it for very long. I've had so many encounters with that kind of stuff in my career that I can't even remember it all, to be honest. But I often shut it down pretty fast, and usually I've shut it down in a way that makes them feel not courageous enough to try again.
Yes.
You know, like there have been a few that I just said things that later I was like, oh my God, did I just say that to that person? But there have been some pretty cruel things. And I've had people men where they came after me, and then literally kicked me out of a project that I was working on, that stage or whatever, and then blame it on my leg.
Wow.
And I'm like, let's be really clear that this has nothing to do with my leg.
Right.
This has something to do with me rejecting you sexually, so fine.
Right.
Fine.
But it's amazing. It's amazing the success you had in this industry, standing up for yourself in that way, because it's really impressive. So it's like the industry itself, you need to be super strong and resilient, which is your middle name, and to take the rejection after rejection after rejection as you show up for all these auditions, right? So what do you have to say for your tips on resilience and strength to be able to let rejection wash over you and not hold on to it?
Well, there's been a lot through the years, a lot of things that I figured out through the years. My earliest lesson about dealing with rejection and cruelty was from my mom when I was a little kid. And coming home from school, dealing with abuse daily, and then getting in trouble for standing up for myself, you know. And I remember my mom saying to me, you know, what you have there is a great judge of character. Other people's character. They are not showing you what's wrong with you. They are showing you what's wrong with them. And I've never forgotten that. And that has carried me through this industry. When people are being cruel for no good reason, of course it hurts. Of course you feel the pain. But then I close my eyes and I think, thank you. Thank you for showing me who you are. Next! Moving on. I can't deal with people that are so closed-minded that they can't appreciate what someone's come through to be standing on their doorstep, you know, to be standing there at all, you know, and because I've worked so hard, I've gained an enormous amount of self-respect. And that is amazing to people sometimes because they're like, how do you have so much self-respect? I'm like, because I've worked hard. I know what I'm capable of. I know I have every right to be here, just like you do. Every right to be standing here right now. And in fact, it's miraculous that I'm standing here right now.
Yeah.
And so one of the many things I tell people in the midst of their challenges is that story that my mother told me, and reminding especially young kids dealing with challenges and disabilities and cancer and things that make them feel really bad about themselves. It's hard to have confidence in yourself when your body is failing you. You know, it's very hard. But you've got to then say, you know what? My body is mighty. It's getting through this. It's fighting things nobody else has to fight. You know, my body is strong. I look at my body and it's easy for other people to be like, oh, well, she's got this weak body. Nah, this body is mighty. This body's been through more challenges than most people could endure in 3 lifetimes. So I've got to be proud of the work I've done to be here and proud of the work I've done to walk every day. I thought that going hiking through Big Sur the other day. I had my 2 walking sticks and a brace on my ankle, and I was in pain. But every step I took, I was like, yes, yes. You know, and in your brain you're going, that which does not kill you makes you stronger. And I cannot believe I'm hiking a mountain again after as many rebuilds and surgeries as I've had. You know, like, so you make sure you make the moves to make you proud of yourself. So ultimately what I tell people to do is keep going. And when people are exceptionally cruel, try to close your eyes and smile and say, thank you for showing me who you are. And I'm sorry that you're not evolved enough yet to be able to open up to all I'm about to bring into your world. Because I know I'm adding value. And if you're not open to accept that, then you're not in a place of growth yet. And that's okay. You'll come back to me when you're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
It's not going to stop you from reaching out to the millions who do need to hear your wisdom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And in some of my darkest hours, I've had, you know, I have amazing friends. And here's the thing about women that I've learned.
Yeah.
Strong women, really strong women who've been through a lot, women who love themselves.
Yes.
And appreciate and respect themselves. Those strong women, they see you come into a room with a big smile on your face and they get it. And they welcome it and they want to know you. And they're proud of you for shining. And they're proud of you for standing up and trying. So what I have learned through my lifetime is that my challenges have almost been a litmus test for other people. You can walk in a room and just watch their faces, and you know who the strong ones are, and you know who the weak ones are. And I'm okay with the waters being parted that clearly. I'm okay now with the fact that the people in my life are the strongest, most mighty people, and I love them. And I have women friends all over this country and around this world that I know at any time I could drop on their doorstep, or I could call them and say I'm in trouble, and they are there, and I am for them. Yeah. And so I've finally gotten to the place where I'm like, I don't care about the ones who are afraid of me and want to harm me. They can't harm me. I can remove myself. And the ones that are mighty, their doors are wide open. They want to know more. They want to share. They want to see you shine. They're not mad when you look good or you're on a show and you're shining. They're thrilled, you know? So it's like it brings in the strongest people. And even in my youth, when I first started dating, and I got my feelings hurt a lot when I was young, but my mom said to me even then, she's like, you know what? Date people who are going to get it. Date athletes. They understand injuries, you know. Look for your stronger people. And you know what? She was right, because when I look back on my life, it's like the people I dated were the stronger people, emotionally stronger, mentally stronger. The weak ones were afraid of me, and that's okay. It's okay, you know. And, you know, one day when they need strength, they might reach out, and I'm not going to reject them. If somebody reaches out to me and needs help, I'm going to do my best to help them, raise the bar, whatever I can share. But I think that the big lesson in terms of helping people face rejection is to know what it's coming from and just keep moving. I keep telling everyone, whatever the challenge, keep moving. Just even when you feel your worst. In all my life, in all my challenges, through all the years and through all the losses, and there have been many, many crippling losses, I can't think of many days where I stayed down. Not many at all. And even on the worst of them, where I'd be like, I can't even stop crying right now, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to write this or create that or paint this or at least clean the kitchen, or, you know, I can't be around people right now because I'm sad. You know, well then clean your room or open your notebook and write. Or, you know, one time I was dealing with a horrific loss, and my favorite person on the planet, my prior soulmate who passed away last year, one of the greatest human beings I've ever known, I got on the phone with him and I was telling him how I was feeling about it, and it was something he was very aware of, the loss. And he was like, Eileen, you know that character you've been writing who's got nothing left to lose? Hang up the phone, pick up your computer, and write for her now. You're there now.
Wow.
And I was like, and I did feel that way right then and there. And he was right. I was like, oh, you're right. And I hung up the phone and I opened my computer and I wrote those pages. I still can't read them without being in tears. So I know that when that movie's ever done and goes out into the world, there's going to be no female who can watch it and not be in tears.
Right.
I know that.
Yeah.
Unless they're a sociopath. You won't be able to experience it without feeling it, because it's so raw and it's so painful and it's so truthful. And so if you're capable of feeling, you'll feel that. So it's like, it's all value. It's all strength to what we're bringing into the world and craft. And, you know, I know you said you work a lot with, you at the beginning of this conversation, you were saying that you help people with through therapy. Is that what you're?
I'm a coach.
Art therapy.
I'm a coach.
Okay.
So vision board workshops, or just creating whatever it is they want in life.
Vision board workshops. Yeah. So it's like those times, you know, we only really know what we want because we've experienced what we don't want, maybe. And, you know, without really wanting to love something, you're not going to know what it feels like to lose something. The more you've lost something, the more you're clear about what you love. You know what I mean? That's all life, the ups and downs. The greater your losses, the greater your highs.
Yeah.
You know, the greater your lows, the greater your highs. And I always tell people that no matter what you're facing, no matter the loss, no matter the pain, no matter the grief, if you could just take a deep breath and know that this will pass and that it is part of life and it's a part of passage of life. And I think that the whole world would be happier and stronger if they realized that emotional pain is temporary. And if you have the courage to endure it and stay sober through it. I think it's really important to stay sober through your pain, whatever that has to be. Like, don't go get drunk. Don't go sedate it with medication and pills and stuff like that. That's my belief. Go through it sober so that you can feel the depth of that pain, because then your spirit will find a way out of it. And when your spirit finds its way out, it's going to bounce high. And, you know, I've often said to people, I'm happy every day that no one's hurting me. And sometimes I can have the worst life situations happen and still be laughing that day, because to me, loss is so relative to what I've already been through. And I know when people are facing their first major loss or their first major challenge, it feels insurmountable and it feels like you can't survive it. But I hope they hear me say that you can. Survive it, and you will survive it. Just take a deep breath and keep going. And then when you get on the other side, you'll know more of what pure joy is.
Right.
We don't get to pure joy unless we go through the sorrow and the pain of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I diverted you a couple of different times. Did you want to talk about your proudest moment in a different role than the one that was on screen?
Okay, yes. I have received some really amazing letters and things from people whose lives have been impacted just from hearing my story. And I have received emails and messages even on Facebook years later from someone who heard a speech that I did and recognized that they needed to step into their own power or take that risk. Or if I've had them say, if you had the courage to do it, then I had to try. I remember one time sharing with my friend Rhonda this excruciating loss I was feeling about children. And Rhonda is the mother of 3 boys. One of them I've mentored for years because he's a kid with spina bifida. And Rhonda is one of the strongest women I've ever known. She's been through so much, and she's amazing, and her spirit is invincible. It's just, she's an amazing human being. and I was facing yet another terrible thing and processing this horrible loss. And she said to me something that made me cry in the moment, but I've often stepped away feeling proud because of what she said and feeling comfort because of what she said. She said, Eileen, you may not have gotten to have the children that you wanted, but you have been a mother to so many children. She said, including my own. You've helped so many kids through this life, and so many more than you even know about. And to hear that from such a strong mother who is completely all there for her kids and has been such a force for them, to feel that I even was able to somehow help her and her kids, and to know that the impact has been so broad. And I know it's helped a lot of kids come into this industry and go after their dreams when before they didn't think it was possible. So to know that I can honestly look back on my almost 30-year career, and regardless of anyone wanting to take any of it away or claim their own whatever, it doesn't matter, I can look back on my journey and say that I know that I opened up this industry. I know that I profoundly impacted the entertainment industry to get them to step back and start to acknowledge and appreciate what people have come through to get here. Acknowledge and appreciate that people with disabilities are not weaker. They are, in fact, stronger than most other people. To get them to step back and realize there is great value coming at you here, even if it's coming in a different package than what you're used to or what you think is the standard in our industry. I know I've changed my industry, and that the way this industry portrays people on screen changes the world. So I'm proud of that. I know I've had my mark on the world, and if I laid down and died tomorrow, I will feel that I did everything I could to make this world a more inclusive, open, and welcoming place for all people. And I feel that empowering the people who've been left out the most is going to be bringing great strength and power to all people, because it's going to give them perspective and courage and answers and wisdom. And it's going to teach the world about adaptability, and that's a really important quality for surviving. And right now, I think the whole world's trying to figure out how to survive. So those are the things I'm proud of.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Eileen. This has been such an amazing interview, and you've been such a gift to me and to all who will see this video. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Sheila. Thank you for having me. Thank you for sharing it. See, it's got me. Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead